Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 71 of the Lorethrough. Good news, my OBS issue has been solved. Mostly because I went into the settings step by step and I found out that it was trying to select the default audio device and not my microphone. So that's on me. Let's get to Nocron though. Silly audio issues. I probably shouldn't include you in my woes of the technical process of this and ruin the illusion, but hey, it's a part of the journey. Why not? We can sneak around here in Nocron, hanging out on railings outside of high buildings. Very reminiscent of Anne Orlando, to me at least. I feel like we don't get to do a whole lot of this in Elden Ring. Maybe in the DLC. We'll have more buildings and cities to go around. Where they're going to sneak in an extra city, I don't know. Dark Souls 3 got away with it because they just showed Lothric sideways, and that worked pretty well. And then they showed us an all-new city, but find Rune Arc, more of these bodies. We have Silver Tears down there. Go around the back, round of these parts. We get another Celestial Deuce. We can offend lots of people and be forgiven. Getting a good amount of these. Kind of wish they handed you Celestial Dew earlier, but I digress. And sure enough, the Silver Tears are transforming, but not into us, into some random other person. That's somebody we're gonna have to deal with. I also wanted to talk a little bit about poise damage in terms of the PvE of this game. Shucks. Oh, off the cliff they go. Because poise works a little differently in the PvE aspect. Oh, I'm awful at those mace parries, but I want it. I really do. Golly. I'm gonna get myself killed. People don't one-hand a mace usually in PvE or PvP, so it's not something I'm used to. There it is. Completely unnecessary, but it seems the Silver Tears turn into these pale, night folk looking people, like one of the starting races was at the very beginning of the game. Starting complexions. But sure enough, we see a little lantern here, which seems a little odd, almost like somebody had already come through here. Not sure who. Anyways, I wanted to talk about poise things, because I saw a video recently, and if I remember, I'll try to link their video in the description. I believe the name of the YouTuber C-Right. I'm not familiar with him. It is like my first video of him that I've seen that I recall. I guess I could have seen other videos by him. Maybe he calls himself Krite or something like that. Anyways, he did a in-depth analysis of poise damage for weapons and Ashes of War in a PvE-like setting. So, grain of salt, some things that would be effective in PvE will not be as effective in PvP and vice versa. But he was talking about poise values, and he was doing measurements, how useful it was to spam the Ash of War or the ability, and how easy it was to get the poise broken of a target, right? And one of his findings was that if you have a lance, a great lance like this, and you have impaling thrust on it, it is one of the easiest, most economical early game poise breaking options you can have. The only problem is that the great lance takes 20 strength and 14 dex. So if you're like a pure caster, that may not be a stat allocation you're willing to go with. Another pick was, of course, Glintblade Phalanx was also a decent pick, but more as an additive to your poise breaking option of choice. This was all in the framing of you're trying to do a crit build. And sure enough, you can break these poise really easily by combining these things. But they had whole formulas for figuring out how much poise damage you do per second if you're spamming these things. And don't worry, I'll read the item descriptions and talk about the area once I'm done with my little diatribe here. But he essentially figured out that the impaling thrust on the Great Lance did like 20.34 poise per second or something like that, which meant you could use it to break the poise of big things pretty easily by doing it over and over. If you combine it with something with like glint blade phalanx to give you an extra 40 poise damage across the 4 projectiles, then you could break something's poise real quick. There's other options. Some were better, some were worse. It seemed like the most consistent. The other one, which I should probably strive to show off, is actually square off. Specifically, the heavy attack, I believe, was a smidge better, though the light attack was only a little bit behind it. So square off on a straight sword is a much more economical option, say if you're doing a pure caster build of some variety and you want the option to break the poise of something really easily. And I'm going to link the video in the description if I can. And I hope I remember, otherwise I'll just seem like a huge fool. But see right on YouTube. It's probably one of their more recent videos as per the uploading of this video. But specifically it was their... Oh, do I have the video in front of me? I don't know if I do. I hope I do. I think I can find it really fast. It is The New Era of Critical Hits by... Chrigt, C-H-R-I-G-H-T-T. So give that one a look up, and it seems to be mostly true from what I can tell. Great for your PvE knowledge. PvP is a completely different wheelhouse. So, all right. So we've entered a building in Necron finally. I guess we'd entered a few little buildings, but we have these blue flames. We have a sentient orb over there that we can lock onto for some reason. We have these statues of the Night Maidens. We have an altar. We have a nobleman that made it this far. We found a black wet blade with a cipher engraved, can be used as a whetstone knife. When applying an affinity using physical or occult type Ashes of War, an additional affinity of poison, blood, or occult can be chosen. So for you poor status builds, you have to go kill Radon to get here, or use some sort of wrong warp that I am unaware of. For those of you who don't know, wrong warp is an exploit where you start teleporting somewhere and you end your game early by either force closing the program or whatever. And if you do it in a certain way, in a certain order, you can teleport to the wrong place early, essentially. Ah, he doesn't even live through it. Feel bad that I tried. Okay. So, walking on this outer rooftop really reminds me of Anor Londo. I miss Anor Londo, both in Dark Souls 1 and 3. Anor Londo in both areas were such great zones for very different reasons. Alright, so coming up here, we find ourselves the Nox Flowing Hammer, which is one of my favorite weapons, simply because it gives you the option as a strength build to hit people through walls. So it does this, hit, big ol' sweep, and it's not interrupted by walls. So you can say there's an enemy on the other side of the wall, like another player, and you can do this and hit them. No problem. You're great through the wall exploit. Why would you want anything else? Alright. So, Silver Tear Husk. Sure enough, we have some foes down here. And we're going to hit him with the war crimes. Because that's fun. Look at how much damage it's doing. Holy crap. My poor frame rate is taking a nosedive, but it's working. Riveting gameplay. Wow, I forgot how cheesy being a wizard was. I usually, even when I play a wizard, I almost never use my spells in the PvE. I almost always exclusively save them for PvP. Find a larval tear, more silver tear husks. It seems that this room is a very good place to get silver tear husks. They're all over the floor. I believe if you're farming it, this is probably where you want to go. I'm sure you could look up a guide and there's some place later in the game or earlier or whatever, somewhere else that I'm forgetting about. Very nice benches. Chandeliers. Now that we've killed a swordstress and a knight maiden, I believe we can look at their armor guilt-free. Right. Oh, they're almost the same. All right, but the swordstress, which is the single crown point, these women are the personal guards of the Night Maidens, and the silk hides their eyes. Meanwhile, the bicorn, right, or the two-horned sort of crown that they wear, indicates the highest clerical rank and hides the eyes with silk. It's interesting, though, that the swordstresses are the ones that get statues, while the Night Maidens are not, at least from what I've seen in the area and all about. And honestly, given the majesty and the detailed architecture that they have, I don't know, it seems rather unlikely to me that it was driven underground, right? From above. It could have been. There are crazy and intense magics in this world. But I digress. So come in here. We will go through most of this little area. But we will not grab the item at the end, because I don't want to accidentally move forward Ronnie's questline. However, we will read the item description, and I'll probably flash a PNG of it on the screen, as if we had grabbed it. And we'll come back for it when it's time for Ronnie's questline. So I will put a handy-dandy stamp here with the treasure. There we are. That's what we're looking for. So let's get through this little area while we're thinking about it. Oh, this is a regular one. That did a little smidge of damage. Oh, they did release Night Mist. That's funny. Come here, buddy. Get closer. Get mad. Good ol' square off is a shield breaker. Not a big fan of the two-handed approach. 445, 419. It adds extra damage, though. I don't know. I like one-handed straight swords. I wish there was a war sword class of weapon, if that makes sense. I guess that's what a lot of the great swords would be in this game. But a war sword is this convenient class of weapon that I think is more of a modern definition of a sword. May not have existed in olden times. But it's that weapon class or weight class, length, size class between a long sword and a great sword. God. War swords. I like the term, too. It would be nice if there was something kind of in that class. But I understand why it may not be the most feasible. So going up into this boy, I wanted to show off. So a troll has 65 poise health, right? So if I do Glint Blade Phalanx, pull out the Great Lance two-handed. Sure enough, a Glint Blade plus an Impaling Thrust on the Great Lance is enough to break his poise. Which can absolutely trivialize this encounter. Get him Frosty. Run to his head. Grab the knife. And finish him off. But yeah. So, Glintblade Phalanx, an excellent poise-breaking assistant, but have a main hand that's good at it for PvE. There's just some things that do so much poise damage, like the Impaling Thrust on the Lance. Now, I think per hit, there's another Ash of War called Piercing Fang that's similar, has longer range, though, that people might be likely to use, because I think it might do more poise damage per hit, at least on the Lance, right? However, it's a little slower, and because it has longer range, if you're using it point blank, you have a higher likelihood of missing. And so it may not be the most user-friendly pick. So we have a treasure chest here. Heck, I'll open it without even grabbing the item. That'll be funny, right? But we see it's an orange rarity, and I'll slap the PNG on screen as I read the description here and now. Okay. I had it a moment ago. Here it is. So it is the Finger Slayer Blade. The hidden treasure of the eternal city of Necron. A blade said to have been born of a corpse, and sure enough, it looks like a twisted corpse, little hands, feet, and then the top of the body is the blade. It's weird. It's gross. This blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the eternal city and symbolizes its downfall. Cannot be wielded by those without a fate, but it is said to be able to harm the greater will and its vassals. Who are its vassals, per se? Hard to say. Is that Queen Marika? Is that the Elden Lord? Is that the Fingers? Is that the Finger Readers? Who counts as its vassals? Queen Marika seems like the most likely choice, but time will tell. And sure enough, in front of this place, we have another one of these huge bodies in a chair. Not sure what it's all about. I think it either has something, it probably seems like a notable figure. Does it have something to do with their history, their lore, their religion? I mean, we do see the religious clerical statues here of their swordstresses, who are bodyguards of the Night Maidens. Or is this their attempt at fashioning a lord? Who knows? I couldn't tell you. We don't seem to have enough. I don't have any theories offhand that really explain them too much, but hopefully we'll get more in time. Very detailed. Look at that. That's nice. All right, let's go do the other part of the Ancestral Woods, which is the aqueduct. I think I will switch to the broadsword for funsies. I like the broadsword. Now that I know Square Off is an excellent tool for breaking posture, I'm going to use it more often. There's other things that can also do a pretty good job at breaking posture. I think Carrion Grander probably does an okay job at dealing poise damage, but it's slow and has a long charge up. And I think more often than not, you knock enemies over and you may not have a chance to retaliate fast enough to finish off how much poise health they have. So maybe not the best pick. Maybe as a finisher as a part of some other kit. This will require further experimentation on my part, but I don't know. I like that somebody took the time to put down the top, 28 options for breaking poise with an Ash of War. Now, of course, heavy attacks with numerous weapons do excellent poise damage as well. And so there are situations where you may want to use those instead, or use those to supplement whatever you're doing. Alright, but sure enough, we are here at the aqueduct facing cliffs. And we have a Crucible Knight here, of all places. A little odd, but understandable, that we need something tough while we are on these narrow parts. Oh, shucks. Oh, the plink made it so I couldn't dodge. I probably should be using a weapon that has fire damage, but I digress. So that was what, 478? Versus the knife, which does 712. Wow. Crit damage making all the difference in the world. Ooh. Oh, I couldn't get away from him in time. That's okay. We've learned to crit these boys, which is very helpful. Probably one of my favorite enemies to crit, because I practiced a lot. Crucible Horn Shield. Let's take a look at that. Great shield of red-tinged gold carried by Crucible Knights. There's red-tinged gold again. Have we seen that before? I feel like we have on the gilded shields used by the Godric Knights, I believe. Features a great horn. An ancient holiness dwells within. The Crucible Horn skewers foes when performing shield bashes. And sure enough, it comes with shield bash. It's a moderately light grade shield. And if I recall, I think for its weight, it does decent damage. Alright, what does the Missionary's Cookbook 5 have to offer? A record of crafting techniques left by a man who, unable to become a finger maiden, instead became a missionary and went forth to spread holy teachings. Acquire the knowledge to craft the following: Sacred Order pot, which I think is the large holy pot. Very neat. Okay. All right. So I heard a beetle over there. There's a body. We have another Crucible Knight. This one with a lance. I don't know if we've ever seen with... Actually, I think we did the dungeon that had the spirit color snail summoning these guys. I think one of them had a lance. But this is our first one in the flesh that we are seeing that has a lance. So spirit colors are a neat idea, especially when you're supposed to have a limited amount of an enemy. There's not a whole lot of Crucible Knights in the game, and so each one seems very, very important for their own reasons. Whew, what do you know? Blindblade plus square off. Quick posture of a Crucible Knight. That's super neat. Oh, could you give us a moment? Oh, shucks. I am whiffing it. I'm out of here. Oh boy. Yeah, I know what you did. I don't think he's pleased with me. Golly. Funny how a few enemies can totally wreck your focus when it comes to parrying somebody. A couple extra enemies. At least it wrecks mine. Oh, Somber 6. You. Oh, that didn't. There we go. I was trying to do a pivot backstab, but I messed up. There's so little, it's hard to tell where their back's facing. Okay. Well, that just killed them outright. I guess that pounding your shield doesn't count as a block. Kind of funny. Oh well. Alright, we don't have a whole lot of this area. And I guess we could end the episode early. I don't know. Feels bad. Order healing. Well, that's something to look at. Let's take a look at that. Why not? And there it is. Order healing. One of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists, used by hunters of those who live in death, alleviates death blight buildup. The noble gold mask lamented what had become of the hunters, how easy it is for learning and learnedness to be reduced to their ravings of fanatics. All the good and the great wanted in their foolishness was an absolute evil to contend with. Does such a notion exist in the fundamentals of order? Yeah. So kind of worthless, alleviating Deathblight buildup as a spell slot. You're better off just getting the boluses in terms of economy. They're probably faster, don't take mana, etc. But I suppose early on, we probably don't have many death boluses. I don't remember picking many up, so maybe this is early on if you're a faith build. It can be an option. However, it's cheap. 11 int, 11 faith. It's probably one of the, in terms of the fundamentalist incantations, it's probably cheaper stat-wise. Probably. Except for 11-11, that's two oppositional stats, leveling both of them up. Feels kind of bad. Alright. More golden centipedes, which are a fetish of the Golden Order, if we will recall. So it seems interesting that we're finding remnants of the Golden Order, that we're finding Crucible Knights, that we're finding these little guys, these little explorers of the Inverted Hawk Company. Dang. How rude. Any others from behind this waterfall? I don't think so. He's covering cobwebs, but he had a smith and stone for us. And another centipede. Okay. Spirit flame arrows. Another magic arrow. Alright. So here we have a fellow. He is very pale. He's got white hair. He's wearing the simple sackcloth outfit, kind of like the one you steal from Patches in his treasure chest. It looks like he's a little flute or something on his hip. That's neat. I never noticed that before. But he's cradling his head. He's got a blanket. Honestly, there's enough wet patches nearby. That makes me worried that it could be picked up. I mean, there's splashing waterfalls over here, so just doesn't seem like the most dry and cozy place to be. And we get inner order. But he has nothing to say to us. And there is a boss fight up above, right? The fog wall's about here, and we can look in here briefly. We see a big old gargoyle. Just the one, I believe, is what's visible. But there he is. His hair seems to move for just a moment when I pull up the telescope. Kind of interesting. But we won't be doing this fight. We won't be finishing Nukron. We'll be coming back here later since both have quest lines that have aspects I would like to show off. But next time, I believe we will be good to finally start getting up onto the Altus Plateau. Yeah, the Altus Plateau. And we have two ways of doing that. Since we have the Dectus Medallion, we could use the lift, but we also have the Ravine Veiled Village. I believe we will do that one starting off. I would love to go a little longer, but we're in that weird, awkward time frame where we have like 3 minutes till the end of the episode or what have you. You know what? Maybe I'll go through this little place till I get to the first grace. How about that? A little teaser, a taste. Yeah, that's a good idea. So we start working our way up. We're finally getting to the Altus Plateau, or at least in that general direction. And I love this area. This is one of my favorite places in the game. It's such a climb, and there's adventure, and there's all these hodgepodge supports on ancient architecture at the same time. Just different colliding eras. I don't know. I think it's neat. Is there a different weapon I'd be using? I don't really need to break anything's posture right now. Use Impaling Thrust on Greatsword, see if it's pretty good at breaking posture. Why not? It would also give me an opportunity to buff the thing since I put cold on the broadsword like a weirdo. But elemental damage is very important. But yeah, you find level 4 smithing stones. So even early on, if you can't get too far to the Altus Plateau, if the enemies are tough, this place is kind of worth exploring. It's like another mine. What am I saying? It is a mine. It's just located upwards and in the cliff face. To get some more smithing stones. I'm trying to remember how many smithing stones are here. I keep getting Terra Magica and Starlight mixed up. The symbols are similar. The reason I turn on the light, though, is that there's little traps on the floor. See? Those little spiky balls? You walk on those, it creates gas. Poison gas. But we can get behind these boys. Well, in theory. I feel like there's another one over here. Here he is. The cruel backstab is what I was looking for. And we get more level 4 smithing stones. His body's worth avoiding. If you go straight for the body, you get a lesser smithing stone and a trap. Because there's lots of these guys. Kind of hard to see in the dark because for some reason, starlight turns off when you pull out your telescope. Maybe it's really hard to see with it. I thought there'd be one more here. Alright, let's hurry to the next grace. I don't think there's anything to grab on the way. Oh, there's an item. Oh no, I have to check it out. Oh, I don't like this. Oh wow, why is this place so tall? Alright, we'll head back down, grab the item, even though the grace is right ahead. We're so close to it. I hope there's a way to hop down, otherwise I will be very sad. Very upset with myself. There we are. It is a level 5 smithing stone, so kinda really worth it. Okay. We have a slightly different... Is there a safer place to jump down to? There's a cliff over here. This is probably what they want you to jump down to because they put a candle on it. Yeah, this seems like the safer route than the other one I saw over there. Yeah, that doesn't... If you jump down on that, there might be something for you to land on. Okay. Enough dawdling. Let's get up to that grace. We can cut the episode. And I can prepare for episode 72, which will be neat. I don't know. As we're getting these high double digits, it's making me think we could break triple digits fairly easily if I meander enough while showing off most of the game. Oh, who would watch this drivel? Well, I'm happy to have you. Very happy to have you. Okay. Can I still light roll with this? I can. Alright, fire damage ahoy. And he hit his friend. So, I knew that they had reduced the poise damage of Flame of the Red Mates. Because originally, it was kind of the MVP. How I mentioned earlier that Impaling Thrust did roughly like 20.34 poise damage per second, and that's while you're spamming it over like the course of 3 hits or whatever. I think. Flame of the Red Mates? So let's say Impaling Thrust did 20.34. Put that in your mind. Just over 20. The old Flame of the Red Mates did 23.84. So it was a smidge better. And to be fair, this is a wide area and very spammable, easy to use. You could use it from a little bit off. Now it's just okay damage. Maybe you could use it as a scaring tool because they reduced its poise per hit from... Oh, what was it? It was like 30 or 40 poise per hit. It might have been 40 now that I think about it. And they reduced it to like 10 per hit. So new Flame of the Red Mates is just abysmal. It's like less than half of the poise damage per second. Smashing him with the colossal sword is so silly looking. Runark. They have a little statue here. A figure we don't recognize with a nice potted plant. Who are they worshipping? Who indeed? Couldn't say. I hear a beetle, but I also want smithing stones. That's why it's good to look in corners in these mines. And avoid the traps on the ground in here. Alright. Here we have a level 4 somber. Very nice. Lots of good smithing stones here. So even if you don't complete this area, because you're not ready for the Altus Plateau, you might want to do as much of this area as you can feasibly, because it's not too tough and it offers great rewards. Alright, Lost Grace discovered. So now we are on the Rune-strewn precipice where we started at the Ravine-veiled village. And we still have all that to climb. And by all that, I mean... We'll start up here, go up. I think we go across, and then up a little more, and then back over there. And then eventually we backtrack again, and there's an elevator you can see at the top of the screen over there, that wood one. It's very hard to see, but it's there. And some poor trees. Some cliffside property. Alright, that's enough. I've gone on long enough. It went longer than I meant to. Thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have you, and you better enjoy the rest of your day. See ya now.